I heard this story about a fish. He swims up to this older fish and says, I'm trying to find this thing they call the ocean. The ocean, says the older fish. That's what you're in right now. This, says the young fish, this is water. What I want is the ocean.
It's easy to forget just how beautiful life is. We often get too caught up in what's next to really appreciate the now, what's in front of us. It's easy to do when your current situation isn't ideal. We get lost in the idea that our next step will be better than our last step. That isn't always the case though. At times it feels like there is no escape from our increasingly inevitable future. We feel trapped in fear. We become lost in this idea. I know this feeling well. I'm writing this in the same journal that I wrote my suicide note in 4 years ago. Watching Joe Gardner fight so hard to get back to his life on Earth, I couldn't help to think about this. He was fighting for the very thing that I was willing to throw away. The reason Joe fights so hard wasn't for a woman he had interest in, and wasn't for family. At first glance, you think that the reason Joe is fighting is because of his love of music. Music is Joe's spark, after all. At least that's what we are led to believe. It isn't until Joe gets to play his big gig that we realize that even though jazz is a big passion of Joe's, it isn't his spark. After Joe finishes playing, he expects to be filled with accomplishment, to be filled with joy, but instead, he's left wanting more. The thing that Joe worked his entire life to accomplish, he finally does, yet he still isn't satisfied. Even though he plays music and gets to play music now for a living, he is still unhappy. Joe is still busy worried about other things to enjoy what's in front of him. Joe at this moment still believes music is his only reason to be alive. Our first hint at this is when we meet Dez the barber. 22, being in control of Joe's body, is able to appreciate the moment, something that Joe struggles with. Instead of going about his day like normal, Joe was able to find out more about Dez with 22 in control. We find out that even though it seems like cutting hair is Dez's spark, he was kind of forced into doing it due to his situation. He didn't want to cut hair, he wanted to be a veterinarian. Yet, Dez is happy, and Joe, who got to live his dream, remains wanting more. That's because Joe still believes music is his only purpose, is his spark. What Joe fails to see is that no one has a single purpose in life. Even though music is his biggest passion, his life is beyond that. His happiness isn't determined by his situation. Happiness is a decision. Your spark isn't your reason for being on Earth. Your spark is your love of life. There's an amazing shot of Joe on the subway. Everyone has their head down looking at their cell phone, as he too is lost in thought. Comparing this to an earlier scene when 22 is still in control of Joe's body, 22 is lost in amazement of the complexities of the subway, really taking the moment in. All while Joe, who is in the body of Mr. Mittens, is still living in the what to come. 22 believes she wasn't good enough for life, that she didn't have a purpose, which is why she gives up her Earth pass so easily. It's a feeling I'm sure that all of us can relate to. Rather than giving life a try, she is so trapped by her anxiety that she is content dying on the side of the road. With the help of her friend and some pizza, her anxiety is quickly turned into excitement. It's the little things. Some of the best scenes in this movie is watching the joy in 22 as she experiences life in Joe's body for the first time. She experiences things that Joe does on a daily basis with new eyes, instead of taking the moment in like 22 does. Joe was too worried about making his own life better. It isn't until Joe takes a moment to himself and plays some on his piano that he gets a moment to reflect on his life and everything he missed out on while living. Revisiting these moments in his life makes Joe realize that he was wrong to take away 22's chance on life. He finally sees the joy in life's simple pleasures, and is given a second chance in life. Much like life, we don't get to see what's next for Joe, if he finds a new joy in life or if he goes right back to his old ways. Either way, I'm sure it involves pizza.